You're a human being, you will be horrified by this, but you have always taken a particular point of view about security, haven't you? That it would be better if we could control our borders more. It would be better if we were out, as we now are. Yeah. Looking at the events this morning, do you think, thank goodness we're out? Or do you think, like some others, who are concerned about the connections and keeping us safe and the conversations that should be taking place?
I mean, obviously, the first thing to say is it's an horrendous event.
Indeed.
But unfortunately not isolated. You know, we had the events in Paris. We've seen large cells of people in Brussels that have been arrested over the course of the last few weeks.
When you went back to the European Union and you gave your sort of, how can I put it politely, two fingers up to you sort of speech to them, I'm not going off, we'll talk about that in a moment, about how that might have felt for you on a personal level, but sticking with what's happened in Nice today, it certainly made me feel queasy, and perhaps other people who may have voted for you and voted for, well, when I say voted for you, voted for Leave and in turn voted for you and your thoughts, it may have left many of those 17 million queasy when one of the greatest voices to come out of that day in Europe was Marine Le Pen, you know, the leader of the National Front supporting you. And events like this create more division, don't they? I mean, are you worried, A, that she is one of your great supporters and is a very, very divisive character? Many feel that the party is racist.
Well, quite a lot of Greek communists support me as well. You know, opposition to the European project takes many forms. In the south of Europe, it's very left-wing parties. Podemos in Spain, Syriza in Greece, and in the north of Europe, it tends to be parties more on the right. But, you know,
but in France, I mean, you know, we were talking to lots of people who live and work in France. You know, there is a perception that there are much more racial tensions there than there are here, thank goodness.
I think that's true.
But does it worry you that events like this create more, and in a way, partly, you have stoked some of that here?
No, that's completely unfair and wrong. I've tried to avoid things like this. You know, what I've said all the way through is if you have sensible border controls, you will have good relations between all communities in a country. And the big problem in France, and the big problem in much of Europe now, is last year, 1.8 million people came into the EU without one of them being security checked. Now, ISIS said a year ago they would use the migrant crisis, the refugee crisis, as a means of flooding the continent with their jihadis. That's the problem.
But you are going out to the Republican, sorry, you are going out to the Republican convention, aren't you?
As an observer, yes.
You're a fan of Trump, are you? And he has talked about building walls between
ITV are sending journalists out there next week as well.
Are you going there as a journalist? Is this your new incarnation?
I am going.
It's your new job.
You're going as a journalist, are you?
Well, I've spent several years on the pitch playing football, being criticised from the sidelines, and I'm going to go next week to be on the sidelines to criticise. I'm not going to back Trump, but I am going to say that what Brexit showed is that if political parties and movements can motivate people who don't normally vote, you can change the world.
Right. We have voted out.
Yep.
You're going to leave. For many people, your voice was one of the convincing voices to leave, and they are going to feel, thanks a lot, Nigel. You're going and you're not helping us to steer to...
that's not true. That's not true. Look, firstly, I spent 25 years doing this. It's quite a long time, all right? You know, for many years I thought perhaps I was going to become the patron saint of lost causes. We've got the referendum, which without UKIP would never have happened. So would you take a role, because you
were a Conservative member, weren't you, for years?
Well, a long time ago,
Would you take a role if Theresa May says, listen, Nigel, come and help us negotiate it? Well, would you rejoin the Conservative Party and
officially or unofficially, I will play a role in this because I'm still in the European Parliament. I'll be there until we leave.
We also wonder about that, and I will let you answer in a minute.
Well, hang on.
Why are you still taking a salary now that you voted us out from the...
Because the technical side of the job, we voted to leave the European Union, we're leaving, all right? There's no question about that. Okay. By the next general election, we will be an independent country making our own laws. Good. However, what deal we get is pretty fundamental. And all those negotiations, once Article 50, which is the withdrawal mechanism, once that's declared, all of that will get debated and voted on in the European Parliament. So we'll be there.
But you're not here helping to shape the policy, aren't you?
I can't do that. I can't do that.
Would you if you were offered a role too?
I'm not a member of the Conservative Party.
Yes.
I'm not in the government. But what I can do, in Brussels is help in any way. And there are 24 of us, and we will.
17 million people have voted for Leave.
Yeah.
Based, I don't know how many people voted on the basis of that advert, but that was a huge part of the propaganda. You're now saying that's a mistake?
We have a £10 billion a year, a £34 million a day featherbed. That is going to be free money that we can spend on the NHS,